Hello and welcome to the 12 Months to Marathon podcast for me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams. Episode 59, a very special interview with Michelle Schroff, all the way from Arizona in the United States. I'm very happy to get Michelle on. How are you today, Michelle?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You're glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, a little bit of background on why I wanted to speak to Michelle. So, first and foremost, you can find Michelle on Instagram at Waddell Running Lady, all one word. Waddell is spelled Waddell Running Lady and I'll put that obviously all in the description and so on and so forth, as you can follow. And now, as with most of these things, you come across people when you start to get a few more followers, a bit more prevalence, and so on and so forth. You start to come across people. So when I first came across Michelle, there was a couple of reasons why I wanted to speak to Michelle or get Michelle on the podcast. Is because firstly, I love stories, and I think Michelle is comes across as, to me anyway, on as a very authentic, very positive person who champions sort of the best parts of running in its essence, and also in terms of being able to run irrespective of what your body looks like or anything like that. So she promotes a lot of body positivity, which I'm also very happy with, of course, coming from a weight loss background myself and trying to encourage more people to actually get into running and enjoy it irrespective of what they think. Because as we all know, a lot of people think that you've got to be, 6'5" and stick thin to run. And I'm not that. So you definitely haven't got to be that. And the second reason is just because I want people to know that you are going to, yeah, as somebody that gets a little bit of negative pushback. I mean, I've been in the fitness game for a long time, and I think what I've noticed particularly about running, not massively, but I've noticed that you do tend to get a bit of strange negativity around running. And I think Michelle, who has been very vocal on her Instagram, and I really encourage you to follow her, does get a little bit of pushback in terms of what she does, and she handles it with grace and also with a lot of humor, which I do really, really appreciate, because those of you who know me, I do have a sense of humor, which upsets people even more, which makes me want to do it even more, but that's another story. So, okay, so basically we'll get into it. So firstly, Michelle, and obviously Michelle runs ultras as well. So that's another good thing about what she does, and especially where she is, because of course, if I've not been down there, but I sort of know the climate and the temperature. So running, doing that sort of thing makes it doubly hard. So that's even more oppressive. And before I forget, she has got a podcast called Fun of the Run. So please feel free to check that out as well. So first question for me, Michelle, is just give me a bit of your running background. Really, how did you get into it? What started the journey? And then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. It's a little bit of a messy story,
Okay.
but do the best I can with it. So I have a history of we call it yo-yo dieting. I don't know if that's what.
Oh yeah, we know that one. Yep, yep.
So from the time I was about 21,
Yeah.
and honestly, probably until I was about 46,
Right.
and just losing and gaining the same 70 pounds, 80 pounds over and over and over again with
Yeah.
each baby that I had. I have 6 kids.
Oh wow.
And just a lot of kind of disordered eating and things. So finally, I decided I was tired of this and I was going to lose the weight, once and for all. So back in between 2017 and 2018, I really started getting consistent with hiking and walking and those kinds of things. But I had 10 more pounds to lose, and I was out with a friend. And I said, I can't lose this last 10 pounds. And she said, well, why don't you try jogging? And I said, jogging, running. I said, I can't do that. I even as a child, I was not an athlete, and I was the one they would pick last for like the sports and things like that. And I said, I can't do that. And she's like, you can. You've come so far this past year. You can do it. And I said, no. Well, I secretly went and started looking up how to train for a 5K and, how to start running. And I downloaded an app to my phone and just started being consistent. And 8 weeks later, I ran my first 5K. And it was slow, but as soon as I got that medal around my neck, I felt like $1,000,000. I felt like, wow, this is amazing. And I just did that. And it honestly just started this cycle of, well, I'll do a 10K now. Well, why not a half marathon? Well, why not a full marathon? And eventually, for different reasons, I started running ultra marathons too.
Okay.
but it was just kind of not, I never intended to be a runner. It was just something that kind of happened, maybe not for the best reasons, but I was 44 years old. I was almost 44, just a couple weeks away when I started running for the very first time. So definitely not, you're not too old.
No, no, that's amazing. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
51. I'm
51.
51.
Okay, so
Mhm.
you've been running for 6 years. So you mentioned so how did that journey go really? So from like, which is classic, a lot of people when they try to lose, they go for like a running because they think, well, if I run, I'll lose weight. So how did you get from 5K to where you are now? How did that journey pan out?
Sure. So I didn't know anything about running, and I didn't know anything about, I just saw people like on sidewalks running, and I thought they were so weird and what are they doing? And that does not look fun. Um, but when I started running, even training for the 5Ks, I had time to myself. Like I had
Okay.
this time to think, and I I've lived in Arizona my entire life, but running took me to places I had never been before,
Right.
certain trails and things, and certain parks. And I'm like, this was in my backyard all these years. Um, so once I started running marathons, I've done four. I did Chicago Marathon and Mesa
Okay.
Marathon and just a few Long Beach Marathon. Anyhow, I started realizing how slow that I was, how pace challenged that I am. And I really loved running and the feelings it gave me, but I also really loved hiking. And I started seeing people on Instagram that were running on the trails that I love to hike on. And I thought, well, why can't I do that?
Okay.
You know, the pressure from, I had a coach, and the pressure seemed to be on getting faster. And it was really stressing me out. And it was really causing me a lot of grief in my running. And I just wasn't enjoying it as much.
Hmm.
And I finally just realized I wanted to try something that I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but why not enjoy it? Why not do
Yeah. No.
something that,
Yeah.
like, it was almost like, to me, in my mind, it was marrying hiking that I loved with
Yeah.
running, which,
Okay.
marry the two together. I just guessed, I just went out on the trail and I just started like trying to figure it out for myself. And I loved it. I was like, wow, the sky is blue.
Yeah.
There's flowers along the trail. And I signed up for my first ultra marathon. And the people just welcomed me, took me in, stopped and said, "Hey, are you Waddell running lady? I'm so inspired by you." And I was thinking, they were running 100 miles and they stopped and took time to talk to me.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the trail running community that day, and I've never looked back. So I tend to stick to the trails most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the
Brilliant. How far was the first ultra you did?
Coldwater Rumble in
Yeah.
2020, January of 2023.
Right. Okay. How far was that?
It was 52K.
52K. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's that? 2042. So that's all about in
It was
about
about 30.
32 miles ish.
Yes.
Yeah, about 32 miles ish, basically, if you're looking at miles. Okay. So where did it go from there then? So we started off with 32 miles, and then how's the journey gone from there?
So I've done I believe six ultra marathons since then.
Hmm.
My longest has been 100 miles,
Okay.
and that was last December. So I don't know if your followers know, but my son Austin passed away 2 months ago. He
Yeah.
had leukemia, and that has really it. I had to cancel a lot of races. I
Of
had a
course.
few ultras that were scheduled, and obviously my son was more important. Um, but I ran 100 miles while he was sick.
Okay.
It was a local race, and it was just a loop, 1.4 miles around a loop. Earned my first buckle, and it helped me kind of cope. And I'm
Okay.
going back to do that again this December, the
Okay.
same 100 miles again. And I don't know, I forgot the question.
Yeah, I was curious on the what I guess I think from the, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, by the way. So, I think what I was trying to get to is how I love to know how people get from like they start off with something and then it just escalates, and that's
Oh,
what I love. I love, yes. I was just wondering how it's like. Was it? I suppose the question really is: was that always the plan when you did that first ultra, or was it just
no, no. Honestly, the first ultra was more of kind of an experiment, and
okay?
it was wanting to get out and see what I could do and if
Yeah,
I could do this and how far I could go.
yeah,
Once I realized I could cover this distance and I had enough time, then I wanted to try something else. So I did, let's see, what did I do? I did a couple of more 50Ks.
yeah.
And then I trained for my first 50 mile, which was March of 2024. I
Okay,
did mile 40 because it was in a different climate than what I'm used to.
right.
And I had a severe electrolyte imbalance. And so I
Ah,
had,
okay,
had 10 miles to go and I didn't make it. But since then, I did a couple months later, got my first 50 miler. And then I've also done, let's see, 62K and then the 100 miler. And so it just, you know what it is for me is ultras take you to some really dark places. And I am one of the last finishers most of the time.
okay,
Um, I really am. So not always last, but I'm at least third to last or second
okay.
to last something. So I do have to be very choosy with the events that I pick
Of course.
to make sure that I have enough time. Um, but when you're in the middle of the night and it's just you and there's nobody around you and you hear the coyotes and you know sometimes you can go to some very dark places in your head and it would be so easy to quit.
Yeah.
And it's just like life. Like sometimes in life, it would be so easy to just say, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? I need a break. Whatever. In ultra marathons, if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, marathons too, it doesn't really matter the distance, but if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, every step gets you closer to where you're going.
Mm,
And the nighttime doesn't last forever. If you keep going, the sun comes up
yeah.
and things look better when you're like, okay, there's the sun,
Mm.
I'm almost there. And it puts hope in your heart. And I've cried a lot during my ultras, but then I don't know, the joy comes in the morning, as cliche as it sounds. Um, you cry and then you realize I did that. You make it through, and there's no feeling like it when you push really hard through a physical challenge like that. And
Yeah.
and you look like I look. I don't have a typical runner's body, but I'm strong. I train. I'm consistent,
Yeah.
and I can cover a lot of miles in this body.
Yeah.
And to me, that's continues to amaze me.
What you've just said there, and again, because I'm always because I've come from a change place myself where I've lost weight, and I couldn't do no. It's 20 years ago this year since I started my own journey and from where I am, and so when people say things like that, I'm always very curious to try and get into it as much as possible, as much as they're comfortable with. So I suppose the question I want to ask is, what you just said there about the darkness and the light and all that, where does that come from in you? That
Okay.
attitude. Was it, has it always been that way? Where does that come from?
At its most basic level, it comes from my faith.
Oh yeah, okay,
I My brother was murdered when he was 27 years old.
okay,
That was a dark day. My mother passed away from ovarian cancer, and
okay,
I was a caregiver. My dad died from pancreatic cancer.
right,
Uh, I've had two miscarriages. I've been through a lot of things in my life. And most recently, my son's death has been the most profound and the most difficult thing I've
yeah,
ever faced in my life. And I think because of a lot of hard places in life, it makes you realize that these physical challenges are really not as hard as the things you've gone through in life.
mhm,
Nothing, you know what I mean? Sometimes,
yeah,
like for me, nothing will ever be, I don't care what race I run. It won't be as hard as losing my son was.
of
And
course,
so I know that this is something that physically that I can do, something tangible that I can do. And it's up here is where the challenge is.
yeah,
This is where I need to overcome. And that gives you my faith, especially. I know that overall I'm okay. I just need to keep going.
Okay.
And I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
hard places in life give you the grit that you need to take on physical challenges too.
Yeah. So, in respect of the sort of the weight loss journey, so did you?
Oh,
Did you actually hit your? Have you hit like your weight
yes.
loss goal
I'm
in terms of
sorry.
what you're happy with? No, 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 no. This is, to be honest. I mean, I'll be honest, Michelle. The stuff that you've just said is kind of the real stuff that I want to hear. If that's, I know it sounds very selfish, but that's real and that matters because everyone faces challenges, and it's what I'm always conscious of is how do you overcome that? Where do you get that? And I'll ask you a couple of other questions on that in a second. But where did you get that grit from? And that's why I was interested. So
So,
you feel free.
yes.
You
So,
share whatever you want. It's fine.
okay.
Yeah, the realer
I,
the better. The realer the better for me. Yeah.
okay. So yes. So I started when I got to my first half marathon. So I started running in May of 2018.
Yeah.
In February of 2019 was my first half marathon.
Yeah.
That day that I ran my half marathon, I reached that weight loss goal. So
Okay.
I got to my goal weight, but which yay, right? But then I started training for longer distances
Yeah.
and started needing to eat more.
Yeah. Of
And
course.
because of my background and having such a messed up relationship with food, I couldn't handle just a little bit at a time. And I ended up gaining all of my weight back,
Right.
and which is where I'm at today.
Right.
But I will just be completely honest with you. Even though I've gained the weight back, I've gained so much more, um, so many more beneficial things along, I guess. Not that it's good
Yeah.
to get weight, but I don't ever want to go back to that place where I was obsessed all the time with food,
Yeah.
and that's all I could think about, and it ruined my life. My husband was really upset because I just couldn't live without constantly weighing myself and talking about food.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I'm just so much happier now and as active as I am, even though I am in a larger body. This is, maybe I won't always be like this, but right now this is where I am, and I'm content, you
Yeah.
know?
So what does it take? I suppose what can you pass on? Like you mentioned, for sort of finishing towards the back of races. Now, one of the biggest things that I deal with, both with the people that I work with professionally and also with people online, is the comparison thing, and
Mhm.
you know that side of things. So, how do you deal with the fact that you probably know that you are going to be at the back of these races? How do you deal with that?
So it used to be my biggest fear
Right.
was, what if I finish last? That was like, I couldn't imagine anything worse.
Yeah.
And then it finally happened to me during a trail race, and I was like, this isn't bad at all. I had a line of firefighters on either side of me and flags, and they gave me my medal. They were cheering me in.
Yeah.
Yay. It was amazing. There was nothing shameful about it at all. I will say that did take a lot of pressure off of me, but I will say that I think there's a big difference between road and trail as far as being at the back of the pack.
Yeah.
Um, in Chicago Marathon, I finished past the cutoff, and that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth because we didn't have like the same finish line experience. Whereas trail races, I feel like they celebrate the back of the pack just as much as the beginning
Yeah. Yeah.
of the pack. So I've just noticed that, and that, like I said, that is most races I do are ultras and trail races. And I go into a race knowing, like you said, knowing I'm going to be one of the last ones. It's never been an issue.
Okay. Good.
They celebrate it. Yeah, go out there and get it. I get so many high fives and cheers, and
Yeah.
there's one running lady, and yes, look, you're doing it, and it's just not even an issue anymore, honestly.
Yeah. Brilliant. Good. And how did you? How did you gather this momentum in terms of like followers and people that notice you and support you in that sense? How did that all start?
No, no. So originally, Instagram, I started it just to as a like a what would you call it? Accountability. So
Yeah.
I would kind of post, hey, I ran half a mile today. Because at the beginning, I could only run for 15 seconds at a time. That's where I
Yeah.
started. 15 seconds at a time, 10 minutes max. Over time, I started, there was no momentum at first. But then I feel like once I started showing my face and almost like talking to the screen and saying, hey, this is where I'm at and I'm struggling to, people started relating. I think I'm different because I run in a skirt. I am overweight. I don't maybe look like a lot of other people do. And I think people are just kind of like, who is this person? So
Yeah.
I maybe curiosity. Um, I honestly, I don't know. I
Okay.
couldn't even tell you. I feel like for some reason I share the lows and I share the highs.
Yeah.
It's not, my page is not a highlight reel.
No, no, no. Yeah.
I will tell you when I am struggling and I will show you those paces sometimes and like, look, I didn't even get 2 miles today and it took me an hour and a half because it was 106 outside. And
Mm.
I'll share those things. And I feel like being vulnerable maybe has just a lot of people relate. People don't want to say that they're not perfect. They don't want to say
Mm.
that, that they're struggling and yet so many of us are. So
Yeah,
that's all
yeah.
I can think of. It's something about me is relatable. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do get a little bit of pushback online. You do get you mentioned it yourself openly, and you do talk about it openly, which I quite like in terms of the people who obviously question whether or not you're the worst expression in the world, like a real runner, because of they talk about your weight a lot and things on that. How, I suppose, two questions on that, Michelle, really. Firstly, how do you deal with that? And secondly, what would you say to anybody that does encounter that type of thing?
Okay. So when it first started happening, it really bothered me
Right.
and I really took it a lot to heart.
Yeah.
And um people would send memes and things, and are they called GIFs or GIFs?
Gifts, yeah, gifts, yeah.
Yeah, they would send those as in my comment section, and it was this really like fat kid from some movie, and his face was all like, and they're like, that's what I look like, and so I would. At first, I felt like I had to respond to every single person and like,
Mm.
no, that's not true, and I'm not like that or whatever. And then I finally realized I don't need to respond to these people, and so a lot of it has the thing that started it all was I was doing a 50K and I was at an aid station and we were in last place at this particular race. I had a friend pacing me. We were at an aid station that was closed down. They just kind of left some water out for us, and I was using a pitcher and pouring the water in my mouth, and just laughing. And my friend was
Yeah.
taking a picture, whatever. We posted that and I got so much hate, saying you're too fat to be running an ultra marathon. You don't deserve to be out there. You're unhealthy. This basically all of these horrible replies. And then, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be brief.
No, don't be
So,
brief. You can take as long as you want. It's fine.
okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
that
That's fine.
was the first one that really affected me. The second one, even up until like probably a few weeks ago, I was still getting comments on another reel after I ran my first 100-mile race. The amount of people that said I was lying and that I didn't really do it
Right.
is unbelievable. And they prove it, show your pace and this. And I finally realized, it took me so long to realize this, John.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I don't need to. They can look my name up if they want on Ultra Sign Up. They can see that I did it. They can see my paces if they want. They can see how long it took me to finish.
Yeah.
That's on them. But I don't need to prove myself to anybody.
Yeah.
And I know that I did it. And
Yeah.
so there will be times that this is what I would say. A lot, I would say in general, my advice to people who get that kind of comment would be to just block, delete, and just let it go out in one ear and out the other. But I have found that sometimes I have to respond and just kind of educate people sometimes
Yeah.
and just say, you know, you're wrong and this is why you're wrong. And, you know, you don't need to be a certain size. Just to kind of keep, you know, keep that out there.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's going to be a forever problem. There's always going to be people that feel that way.
Yeah.
But I found that in general, most people are very, 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 very supportive. So
Yeah. We are talking the minority here. I think for me, I think what you've just explained there breeds the unfortunate thing of I'm not a typical runner.
yeah,
I get a lot of people say that to me, and I always think, well, what is a
typical runner.
yeah?
Yeah.
And
Somebody,
I think one thing about you, which I like straight away, was the fact that it was like, well, you know, you talk about all this stuff, and it's like you're doing it, and there's no problem to that, and you're getting all this criticism. So what is a typical runner then?
exactly. Exactly.
What is
Yeah.
that? What is the benchmark? If the benchmark is, and I say this a lot to people are like, but because I get this thing a lot, I don't think anyone should ever call themselves slow because for me, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I just don't think, I don't think there's any need for it. It's no problem, do whatever you want, it's fine. But I just don't see the point because I think it's a little bit self-defeating. But also,
True.
it's like, well, compared to the elites, we're all slow.
Right. Very true.
You know, compared to the athletes, we're all chilled. I say I'm a child compared to the guy who's just broke the 100K world record. I mean,
Well,
we've got no,
sure.
yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. And like, you know, we've got, oh, I put a post about it yesterday. I said, you know, he's not on the internet calling everybody slow,
No.
and he could.
No.
And you'd be like, yeah, you can. I'll let you call everybody slow. So in terms of the body positivity stuff, you mentioned that. I suppose how how do you I suppose how do you deal with that? I suppose that's quite difficult because, and I know from being overweight myself, it can sting a bit. It can sting a bit that can, and because I think especially were you, pardon me asking this, was that a problem since you were younger, quite young, the weight problem
No.
as
It
you mentioned?
was when I started having kids.
Oh, was it?
Mhm.
Okay. So how do you deal with that? Does that how much does that affect you in essence?
So up until probably the last year or so, it really, really did affect me
Okay,
tremendous. Um, I worked with a lady on Instagram, the running dietitian.
right.
All of 2021, I thought my goal was for her to help me with like my fueling for my runs. But instead, she helped me in my mind. We weren't there yet. I had to get a lot of rubbish out of my brain.
Okay.
I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like, I feel like I personally, being overweight, I felt like I had the right almost to look at other people and say, well, but they're overweight. Like, how can they be happy? How can they, you know, and it just took a lot of, even after I quit working with her, it took a lot of inner dialogue. I don't know how else to say it, but when you're out there day after day and you know you're following your training plan and you're going out even when you don't feel like it and you're on the treadmill and the bike and you're lifting your weights and you're there's something to be said for that
Oh
even though
yeah.
you know how whatever you look like I can look at myself and I'll be honest I don't love like the fact that I weigh as much as I do like I don't love the way I look all the time but I can acknowledge the fact that I'm strong and that I've done this body that I'm in has served me so well.
Yeah.
Served me so well. It's taken me thousands and thousands of miles on these feet
Yes.
and with this you know with this extra weight
Yeah.
it's taken me far and it's gotten me to some amazing places, some wonderful opportunities, race entries for amazing events that, you know, I didn't have to pay for. And I was able to just go there and enjoy. And it's so many friends that I've met and people that have, you know, messaged me and even you, just, you know, just so many opportunities. And it's in this body.
Yeah.
And I've learned that really the only thing you have to do to be a runner is to run, you know, and that's just the most basic thing. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a certain pace. It doesn't have to be a certain distance. It doesn't need to be for a certain amount of time. It doesn't matter if you're brand new or you've been doing it for 50 years. If you run, you literally just get out there and run. You're a runner, and that's all
Yeah.
that matters.
Absolutely.
Take walk breaks if you want, run ultras, run on the trail, run on the treadmill, run on the track. It doesn't matter. You are a runner if you run. And that's just, this body can run. I can
Yeah,
do it. It may not
absolutely.
look like you when you're running, but it's mine, and I'm able to do it. So it's amazing.
Absolutely. One thing, there's an expression which I love, which is people who are truly body positive do positive things with their body.
There you
Which,
go.
which you're doing, aren't you? So does you know what I mean? So as long as you're doing positive things with your body, that's body positivity, isn't it? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's really really good. So right, last couple of questions from me, which I always ask. The first one, because actually this is an interesting question to ask you, because there's multifacets to it, is if you've got, so there's somebody out there who is, maybe wanting to be a runner, maybe starting out, and maybe, in a similar place to you in terms of perhaps they're a little bit self-conscious or whatever it was. They've got weight, they're looking to lose weight, whatever it might be. And
Okay.
they've got the added, I want to be a runner, I'm nervous about that, but also I've got this other thing as well. What would you say to them?
You won't know unless you try. You
Hmm.
won't realize how beautiful life can be, until you go out there and just kind of take the bull by the horns. You can do more than you think you can. You're stronger than you think you are. That's very cliche, but you don't have to look a certain way to be able to run. So I would just say start slow. Do not take on too much too soon. It doesn't matter what size you are. Don't take on too much too soon.
Yeah,
My daughter,
exactly. Yeah.
years old, she's just starting running, and she is thin as a whip, but she'll take on too much too soon, and
Yeah.
then she pays for it. So that goes for everybody. Um, I think heavy people are going to they do have that naturally, just kind of, you feel self conscious. I had a hard time going outside to run at first,
Yeah. Yeah.
but over time, you have to just think about what you're doing and not what everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
and not worry about who's looking at you and who's watching you. You do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And that would be my best advice, is do it for you, and just do what you can do, because it's you, it's your body, and it's what you're able to do. um you're not going to be able to do maybe what I can do, or what you can do. It's such a personal um journey,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what else to say, but
Yeah, no, it's good. And one thing another expression which I heard when I first started losing weight was, you might not be able to do all you find out, but find out all you can do.
mhm, yes,
So yeah, so you might not be able to do everything, but just be curious, just find out, and you never know. In
absolutely.
your case, where it could take you to, connecting with all these people and doing these amazing things and inspiring a lot of people as well, which clearly you do. So, my final question, my philosophical question that I always like to ask people is, how has this whole experience changed you, Michelle?
Well, so I can't say that it has, like, changed me spiritually, because I already had that, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, before
Okay.
I
Yeah.
started. But I think one thing that it's done for me the most, probably the most, is I'm a lot more confident.
Mm.
Um, I have a lot more self respect. I'm not vain or anything like that, but I've realized that I deserve to be out in the world enjoying nature on the trails just as much as anybody else does.
Mm.
I never knew the sky was so blue. I never knew how beautiful the world was, because really before I started running, I really stayed in my house.
Yeah.
I didn't go out much, and now I go everywhere. I go on the trails and the parks, and I do things alone. It's given me confidence to travel to races by myself, and just do things I never did before.
Yeah.
So it's really given me a lot that way. Grit that I never had, and self-respect and self-worth. It really,
Mm.
really has changed me for the good.
Mm. And you touched on this briefly, but what's next for you?
So next I have, let me see, the big thing I have next is a 100-mile race in December at
Where's that?
across.
Where's that?
It's at Across the Years, by Era Viper Running.
Right.
It's at a let's see. I'm trying to think where it's at. It's at a ballpark, Peoria Sports Complex.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's 100 miles in Arizona. Yeah.
You just run around the ballpark.
Yes, it's terrible mentally, but it's so well supported, and all
Yeah.
my friends are there, and I know I'll get my buckle.
Yeah.
So that's my next big thing. I'm running in October 5th. I'm running Long Beach half marathon with my daughter.
Okay.
Her first half marathon, and it's in my son's honor. It's in my son's memory.
Okay.
So it's really special. That's coming up in October.
Okay. And you've got some links in your Instagram, haven't you? So if people want to donate for,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Cool.
Mhm.
Long Beach, California. That Long Beach, or am I?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was talking to somebody else, funny enough, from Long Beach the other day.
Oh,
I had somebody else from Long Beach. That's cool. Okay. Cool. So we've got that one October, and then you've got the 100 miler. Have you got aspirations? Are you just taking everything as it comes? Are there any bigger aspirations beyond that? I mean, I know 100 miles a long way, but is there anything on the bucket list? Anything there that you
yeah.
think that?
I would love to be able to run, about Cocodona. I would love to someday run Cocodona 250.
Right.
It would be a few years down the road for sure. And I feel like I would like to take the little steps leading to it. So I was supposed to run Flagstaff Crest 39 this past year, but Austin was in the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm on the waiting list for Sedona Canyons 125, which
Right.
is, part of the Cocodona series.
Right.
So there are several kind of stepping stones to eventually get to Cocodona within that whole event that you can do to make your way up.
So yeah, if you don't mind me asking, I'm not because I thought you were going to say Badwater, but because I know about Badwater.
You're not the first one.
Yeah, I read Eat and Run by Scott Jurek, which I recommend to everybody because I've only ever gone to marathon, so I don't think I'd go any further than that. Give me flat and concrete and fast and fastish for my age any day. But that's the stuff that you do. I'll tip my hat and I'll go, yeah, you carry on. But yes, I thought you were going to say Badwater, but I don't know. I've not heard of that Cocodona. So do you mind just for the listeners?
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't now. So I've heard of a few. I've heard of Great Western Union. I've heard of Badwater. I've heard of a few from reading. I've read Eat and Run, and I've also read Born to Run as well. So I've heard of a few of those runs. But because I'm not really in the ultra space, yes. So just in case people don't know what that is,
Sure.
just please explain that for us.
Yeah. So Cocodona 250 is put on by a local running company here called Aravipa Running.
Right.
It is a five-day event, and it's 250 miles. It ends in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I can't remember exactly where it starts, to be honest. But it takes you, I don't know, maybe 30,000 feet gain, throughout the race. It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And it's in the mountains, and it's in the desert, and it's everywhere in between. And it's a huge thing here. So we have people come. Courtney Dauwalter came out, and we have a lot of like people that are celebrities in the trail running world come to this event. And it's a huge, huge, huge thing. It's kind of the ultimate, in my mind, of a trail running kind of, event. But it's a dream for a lot of trail runners and a lot of ultra runners to get to run Coconut.
I can imagine, yeah, because you get that when I've read briefly about like those books I mentioned, that there's that thing about the mountains and the big, the big challenging stuff. So there's always it's funny, isn't it, when you get to a certain place, there's always that thing that makes you think. Like the Marathon des Sables is one I've seen a few documentaries on, and you just think, it looks gruesome, but you think, oh, actually,
Know.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You just think to yourself, oh, actually, that would be, that'd be interesting. We're a funny bunch. So, anything else from you, Michelle, before we wrap up? I appreciate it.
So I was just going to say, overall, this just came to my mind. My overall, where I've come to in my running journey is it's about an adventure. It's about the adventure for me. It's not about so much about the pace or which race it is or whatever. It's about enjoying it. And it's really about I would be willing to show up to a start line, even just scared and not knowing if I could make it, not knowing if I could reach the cutoff, just for the sake of adventure and getting to be out there doing what I love to do with the people that I love to do it with. So that's what it's about is it's life, adventure, and enjoying it all.
Yeah, so. I am into that. I've always said that it's dawned on me a couple of times, but bit because when I was overweight, I felt trapped
Yes.
in my body, if that makes sense. And for me, running is freedom.
Yes.
It's the ultimate.
Absolutely.
It's the ultimate expression of freedom because when I was unfit,
Hmm.
I didn't think I could do anything. I didn't think it was me, and I think what I found was that running gave me freedom, and it gave me the
Yes.
freedom to. It doesn't, like I've classically said before, it doesn't solve your problems. It just gives you better ones.
Yeah.
But it's freedom for me, and the adventure and where it
Yeah.
and the people that you meet. I mean, you meet
Yes.
some. I mean, like this with you, and I've met some apps. I've spoke to some incredible human beings,
Yes.
absolutely unbelievable human beings, and it's just you do meet some cool people. So yeah, for those people who are listening and who are perhaps have been inspired by this or have heard Michelle's message and are in that place where you're a little bit nervous, you want to get out there, do something. Hopefully, this will give you the impetus to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to wrap up by saying thank you, Michelle. I appreciate your time. I know obviously it's been a rough time for you, so I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and sharing and being authentic and vulnerable and sharing everything because I think, like you said, that makes it real. Because a lot of people, I think with any fitness related thing, but particularly running, they get this disconnect from everybody who runs is perfect and everything always goes well and you always follow the training plan and your nutrition always goes well and you're not hungry and tired all the time and all the stuff that comes with it. And you're not having to deal with life and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So that was really I really really appreciate it. So please listeners, go and give Michelle some love over at Waddell Running Lady. I'll put the link in the description. Please go and give her some love and support. You'll enjoy her Instagram, definitely. I do. I was inspired by her story and her vulnerability, and also as well her standing up to the negativity and pushing back against it. That's something that has inspired me as well. So yeah, don't forget to follow me as well at 12 Months to Marathon for all your daily content and tips. As always with the podcast, if you want, please share this one. I know this one will add value to a lot of people. Don't forget to drop me a star rating wherever you get your podcast from, Spotify or Apple, and follow and subscribe to the podcast as well. I appreciate that. And as always, if you go to my Instagram bio and you're over 35 and you want to join my free online running community, just click the link in my bio and you can join my free online running community there where we can take us all away from social media and we can have a chat and connect over there and you can meet like-minded people. So again, thank you, Michelle. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I'll speak to you all very soon.